Greetings, intrepid viewers. We've made it to the end of 2018 almost. Miracle, absolute miracle. So season's greetings, and just a reminder that it was Yuletide, a pagan festival long before it was a Christian festival. So for those of you who may or may not be Christian, season's greetings nonetheless, and coming to the end of what has to be a milestone year. And if anything, it's speeding up. And I'm sure many of you are aware, I think it was a media organisation called Wired, and they've spelt out 17 investigations where Trump is involved. 17. So I thought, how am I going to read on this? So I've decided to break it into 4 sort of chunks, if you like, So there's Blotus's family and the business, the fabulous Trump org. Okay, so that's the charity where they ripped off the children's cancer funding. These are truly nice people, are they not? And the emolument stuff around getting money in for the family and all that sort of stuff, that's one. The second one is going to be what? It's going to be campaign violations. The third one will be Russia. And the fourth one will be the Middle East, because I was reading a behind-the-scenes investigative journalism article today that convinced me there's a lot more going to come out about money from the Middle East. Okay, so let's kick off with the first one, which is the Trump organization itself. Okay, what's happening for the Trump org? So the charity has been closed down. Apparently they hadn't had a meeting since 1991. This is what I mean with these people, isn't it, viewers? They haven't even bothered to pretend. They've taken money for charity and they've used it to pay their own legal bills and presumably to buy frocks for Ivanka and Armani suits for her hideous brother, well, both her adult brothers. They've probably paid for their safari excursions, where they shoot endangered species. They're just truly unspeakably vile. So let's have a look at the heartland of Trump org. What is happening with those cases, plural? All right. Okay. Oh, things are happening quickly, very quickly. Okay. All right. So, with Trump org, on top of their mini reading here, we have the High Priestess. Hidden agendas is what is most commonly said as an interpretation for the High Priestess. It does not do justice to the High Priestess card, but for these people who are, barely above reptilian level, it will do. And the High Priestess is sitting between the twin pillars of good and evil. It's quite a Jewish card, in fact, and references Boaz and Yahweh. So it's the eternal battle between good and evil. They firmly put themselves on one side of that ledger. So this ghastly family unit is desperately trying to hide its hidden agendas. The Ace of Pentacles, it was always about the money, only about the money, and there's several things to pay attention to here, viewers. Hand of God, note the storm clouds around the hand of God. Of all the aces, I find this the most feminine hand. It can be a card of initiating good fortune financially. This is in the past. Well, it certainly was, wasn't it? But ultimately, it ends up being regarded as fool's gold. Okay. Now, bang in the centre, they have the Eight of Wands. I'm sorry, you know how when kids are small, they do this? They think you can't see them, you know, by moving their fingers. It's like that. They still think they can slip and slide around it. But the long arm of the law is after them and things are happening very quickly. Are they prepared? I doubt it. They are so collectively delusional, and that's what happens when you surround yourself with yes people. You lose touch with the real world. They must be worried. Of course they're worried. However, do they believe they're looking at jail? I wonder with these people. I wonder. But it's happening very fast. They've got a second ace. So let's look at the bookend aces, shall we? We have fool's gold bracketed by effusive emotion. So they made massive emotional decisions in the sense of, I rule the world, so of course it's all right for me to take $40,000 away from a children's cancer fund. I mean, isn't that what the money was for? I mean, the delusion is rife and scandalous, and what should be the dove of peace is actually the mad bird. It's like the Hitchcock movie. Have we all seen The Birds? It's like that. Another hand of God, but the bird is crashing into the chalice. Page of Swords, there's a spy in the camp. I'm asking specifically about the Trump family money stuff, the historical stuff as well as the contemporary stuff. Spy in the camp, Page of Swords. Now, we're going to need some clarifiers here, viewers, because don't forget, Alan Weisselberg has turned. He did a plea agreement. He didn't give everything, but he gave a hell of a lot. And he has been the main accountant at Trump Org since Fred, the Klansman, the patriarch, was around. He knows the lot, and he gave up a lot. Is he the spy in the camp? So, Weisselberg. I've got a few other contenders. Weisselberg. Yeah, he made a deal. Temperance made a deal. As I said, it is known he didn't give up absolutely everything, but he gave up enough. Enough to keep his own sorry geriatric ass out of jail. Sympathy, I have none. Okay, because he was the bookkeeper extraordinaire. He was the one who actually made it happen and signed the checks and balanced the books. Yeah, right. How many sets of books, Alan? So that's Alan Weisselberg. Rona Graff. Do we remember Rona? Now, she's been the PA executive secretary of Trump Org since the triplets from hell, Ivanka, Don Jr. and Eric, were teenagers, or even before when they were younger. Rona Graff. She was subpoenaed very early in the piece. What's Rona's story? Rona Graff. She's made a deal. She's entered into a pact. Oh dear, oh dear. This is why I thought there's more than one spy in the camp. So that's the accountant. That's the person who saw and with Rona, she saw every single email that came through and was mainly the one to answer the phone, make the appointments. She knows, lest we forget, she knows who met who and when and where. Okay, so that's Rona. Now, the next one, which I'm very keen to see, turning on each other. Will they turn on each other? That's the siblings and their father. Will they turn on each other? Oh, smooth talking. Smooth talking. So I would say here, this is one of them, 2 of the 4, 3 of the 4, 4 of the 4. This is some combination of them talking, and this is them asking for a deal. This isn't Mullah. I don't think he's actually sat down with the inner family. This is them asking for a deal. I wonder which one it is. Oh, let's try and find out. Don Jr. Is it Don Jr. asking for a deal? You know, planning the deal. Because when they get indicted, they're going to have a plan. Don Jr. King of Cups could well be Don Jr. Eric, I'm saving Ivanka for last. Eric. Will Eric ask for a deal that dobs in his siblings and his father? The new cowboy in town. Poor old Frodo, Eric, who was always the one considered slightly simple, given the non-jobs and so forth. But this is a young figure who was always a messenger for the king, carrying a message. Interesting. What about Ivanka? What about Ivanka? Will Ivanka tell on her brothers or even her father? Ivanka. Queen of Pentacles, you better believe it. You better believe it. We know how often the Queen of Pentacles turns up, viewers. So I've said before in a much earlier reading, Ivanka has grown up a lot in the last 2 years. She's gone from being the princess, in inverted commas, to the queen. She will do anything to preserve her family, meaning her biological children and their money. So we should not be surprised. I think it's entirely likely that they will turn on each other. Mullah will end up having his pick of these vile, duplicitous, treasonous, selfish, shallow bastards, and really just play one off against the other. Oh, no problem. Oh, beautiful. Now, so that's the inner workings of the family businesses. So now let's have a peekaboo at the campaign violations. So this is a mishmash of the Stormy Daniels, Karen McDougall payments. It's also funds that were put aside for the inauguration, and that is now under the microscope. Because with Trump himself, there's never been a concept of doing anything for anyone else. It was always and only and will be, until he draws his last breath, about him. So the inauguration funds scandal is playing out. And here we go. How bad will that get? It's not the most interesting of the cases, but like Al Capone, sometimes it's these things that bring them undone. Campaign violations. Campaign violations. All right. Deals. Oh, well, there's Trump at the helm. Of course people want to give me money. Wealthy donors want to give me money, and people with, you know, haven't got 20 bucks to their name. If they give me 10 of it, you know, that's good. This is him as the emperor. He thinks of it as being paid his dues. He doesn't understand. And it's like that. It's a weird thing, viewers. Sometimes with very rich people, the richer you are, the less you have to pay for things because some designer wants you to wear their frock to something, or some jeweler wants you to wear their jewels when you're on holiday and things. And people can get out of touch. It's not something all wealthy people do. Other wealthy people actually fund libraries and scholarships and museums and support the arts. The Trumps, never. So that's Emperor Trump. Their hands are tied. They can't squirm out of this one. Those bonds surrounded by swords. Okay, and so it's coming together. The pact about this stuff is coming together. I mean, you wonder why Mueller's taking as long as he is. This is really a 5-year investigation that he's done remarkably well to have pulled together the strands he has, but there are more strands, massive, intricate strands. But this one's coming together a treat. Justice is coming down with an offer. So what is the offer? I think the offer could be about which one of them again. Let's have a look. The offer. Okay, knights are opportunities. Will one dob in the other on this stuff? The Empress, Ivanka. Interesting. I'm curious too, other people, including Flynn. What's his game? What's his game? Will Flynn be dragged into this stuff? He's got enough going on in his own little indictments. Flynn. It just flew into my brain. Women celebrating. Women celebrating and the Empress. Oh, I know, it's not Flynn. No, I think it's other women. Women in the system. Now, this could be someone like Barbara Underwood who's handling some of those cases, but I think this is women investigators who are handling this. I would venture to say there's quite a few women involved in this, and they feel they've got them. Not just Trump, but the whole campaign. Interesting. Now, we're moving on to Russia. Okay, so while I'm shuffling and preparing the cards for Russia, let's look at what Flynn's been up to. There was that strange thing. On the one hand, Mueller is offering no jail time. Profoundly generous offer. What does this tell you? This tells you he gave up truckloads. And he also was involved, I wrote it down, what's the expression? 62 hours of interviews, thousands of documents, and facilitating the procurement of electronic devices. I think he wore a wire in those first few weeks. I think he also had recordings. He was able to put them onto recordings. So, Mueller's prepared to scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. Flynn obviously gave him a lot. Mueller then goes, Judge, he gave us so much, wink, wink, nod, nod, no jail. And then his lawyers came back with that pissy, infantile, gutless, craven thing of saying, oh, he was bullied, and Trump ran with it. Flynn was bullied. No, he wasn't bullied. He confessed because he was caught red-handed. But I thought it was very lower class, lowercase, lower class, shonky. Flynn, barely sewerage material. Should have known better, did know better, greedy. Sold his country down the river so he could get a couple of mil. When I say a couple of mil here, a couple of mil there. Okay, so Russia. What's more of the Russian stuff? This is big in itself. I'm already at 20 minutes, so I might do the Middle East separately. I'll finish this one on Russia. Do a couple of Middle East. Manafort and Russia first. Manafort and Russia. Oh, sorry, viewers. I get carried away. The Hanged Man, well, yes, Manafort. If it was 100 years ago, he would be off to the gallows. But in terms of this, the Hanged Man is about biding your time, but also seeing things from another perspective. I think Manafort is in a very tricky position. I've done other readings on him, but this brings in the GOP. This is my GOP card. Okay, the 10 of Cups, performing. This is the perfect family performing, being perfect little Republican voters in their perfect little Republican town with their perfect little reverend. You know, the earth is flat. There is no climate crisis. This is what it's all about. So Manafort stuff, somehow, it could be the NRA connection with the Republicans too. So this is Manafort and the Republicans are embattled. They're not finished. They're going to fight another day. Manafort's not even finished because he doesn't know if he's going to be given some obscure military poison like the Russians did in the UK. He doesn't know if he's going to get a bullet in the brain or a one-way trip to the shower block. He's got a lot to concern himself with. But now we'll move on from Manafort. I'll put those cards aside and work with new cards. I want to see what's happening now with Felix Sater and some of the other more difficult to pronounce Russians. Do you remember, viewers? Intrepid viewers who have been with me a while will know I've actually written these Russian names and connections out on pieces of paper. And these are the names that are all coming back. Right. Despyak and Kuzliak and, you know, all these guys. But don't forget Felix Sater, Bayrock, Russia and Trump. Russia and Trump. Okay, let me bring you down. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Yeah. It's not surprising. This is Mueller's core business, the Russia investigation. This is not single people here. This is those names I was trying to pronounce just then. It's a combination of all the Russian players, including Maria Butina, but not exclusively. He got money from the Russians for years and years and years. And there was the whole money laundering saga in the sense, barking at the moon. It's not only lies and deceit with the moon, it's a form of madness. They were mad with greed, both the Russian oligarchs and Trump. How does it end? In a crushing disappointment. I need a clarifier on that. So, will it be the Russian stuff that turns the GOP? The Russian stuff. because we know lots of the GOP benefited from this money. So will they speak up? Will there become a point where the GOP will speak up about Russia? Will the GOP own some of this Russia stuff? They're at a crossroads. Some are thinking about it. Others don't want to know. Ah. Well, it's all there. You have the hidden agendas, the making a decision. This is also very like the figure of justice, the blind figure of justice, everyone. So some Republicans are actually genuinely wrestling with this issue. I'll have to do a separate reading on this aspect of it, because the ones who got money from Russia, which included Lindsey Graham and John McCain, rest in peace, and the various players, Lindsey Graham, how much did they know? How much did they know when the NRA gave them money, Russian money? So that's another reading. But they're putting the story together themselves, some out of guilt and others out of belated patriotism, I would suggest. It's coming down thick and it's coming down fast. They have an opportunity, nights are opportunities, to come clean about the rip-offs. If you look at this figure, there's a Cossack field. It's like the Russian hats and the Russian boots. What I'm intuitively feeling here is they know they're going to have to think over this Christmas New Year break. I know this dirty stuff went down. It is obvious now. Am I going to admit to it and say, I'm sorry I took the money, I didn't realise it was Russian money? Are they going to say, I got Russian money and I knew it and I'm really sorry? Or are they going to pretend it's not happening and just hang tough? And you'd have to think there's a distribution within the Republican Party. But this card tells me a lot, as does hidden agendas. The ones who are thinking about it, worry about it, feel guilty about it, are being pressured by those who have the hidden agenda, who have much more personally to lose. So they're being sat on, literally, in this scenario. Oh, well, there you go, beloved and valiant viewers. So thanks for hanging in. And there's so much more I've got to get to, I know. I'd like to do a shout out to all the other readers too. I can say from an insider perspective, it's been a full-on year. It's been absolutely massive. So, goodwill to all. I hope it all goes very well for you. Besitos. Ciao for now.